LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network with over 800 million users, where 40% of the users are active on LinkedIn monthly. And out of that, 45% use LinkedIn on a daily basis. Are you active on LinkedIn? I'm curious to hear from you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how active are you on LinkedIn? 10 meaning that you are using LinkedIn on almost on a daily basis, where you are building relationships, commenting on other people's content, and creating your own content. Type in the comment and let us know. If you are ready to take LinkedIn to the next level and increase your presence this year, then this episode, Best Advice from LinkedIn Top Voices of 2022 in Job Search and Careers, is for you. Hello and welcome to the Dare to Differentiate show. Whether you're tuning in live or watching the replay, I am so delighted that you are here. I'm your host, Diana YK Chan, founder of My Marketability, where I help you stand out, get hired, and earn more. All right, so let's see. What do we have here? We have Sejal from Toronto here. We have Glenda from Pennsylvania, Alex from Boston, Connecticut, Gail here, and Hannah. Hey, thanks for joining us as well. Awesome. So delighted to have many of you here today. All right, so some housekeeping. You can find the replay on my YouTube channel at Diana YK Chan. I will be adding timestamps later on. Here's what to expect from today's agenda is we're going to be sharing our LinkedIn journey, some best advice on how to leverage LinkedIn for your job search, and we're going to be answering your questions as well. Are you guys excited? I'm super excited. Our guests are already backstage here. And I want to ask you from the audience here is, are you creating content? Type in the comment, let us know. Are you creating content? Yes or no? And what topics do you want to talk more about to build your brand? Let us know in the comments so that we can also guide you through today as well. So I'm all about raising the vibrational energy. So we want to encourage you to click like and comment anytime, share your thoughts, key learnings, and questions that you have for us. Engage with each other as well. This is a great opportunity to connect with each other. Okay. Now, just a reminder is to type the question before your question. So, because I know there's going to be a lot of chats coming through as well. I think there's actually more people joining right now. So for those that are asking, I see what I see on my own LinkedIn, and the backstage is a little different numbers there. All right, amazing. All right, so we have a lot of you here. We're active. Alex is like a 10. Mahir is a 9 and a 10 as well. All right, this is amazing to see. All right, awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to really raise the vibrational energy up. You know, our guests are backstage is let's show your appreciation, share your kind words and support is let's cheer on our LinkedIn top voices. Type in the hashtag here. Go Amy, hashtag go Nii Ato, go Emily, go Rhona, go Rob, and go Diana as well. Let's get that chat engagement going there. Okay. All right, so let's welcome our speakers of LinkedIn Top Voices in 2022 for job search and career. So I'm going to bring each person on stage here. So first up, we have Amy. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Diana. Thanks so much for hosting this. This is amazing.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And then next up, I'm going to bring in Emily Liou as well.
Whoop, whoop.
Hey, Emily.
Hello,
Welcome.
everyone. So nice to meet you.
Great to have you. And next, we're going to bring in Nii Ato. Hey, Nii Ato.
What's up, everybody? How you guys doing? Good to be here. Thank you so much for throwing us all together for this conversation.
Yeah, my pleasure. Next up, I'm going to bring on Rhona.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for hosting us, Diana.
Amazing, Rhona. All right. And finally, last but not least, is Rob. Hey, Rob.
Hi. Good to see you again, Diana. Good to be here.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Like this is our first time having 6 of us all together here. And it's amazing that we can get 6 of us all together within a week. We have also 4 other fellow LinkedIn Top Voices who couldn't be here today, but we encourage you to also follow them as well. I'll be also displaying that later on in the chat here. So we're going to kick things off is how does it feel to be named LinkedIn Top Voice? What was your reaction when you first found out? Why don't we start with Amy?
Confused, surprised, really suspicious that they made a mistake. We get the notification, ahead of time, right? And I was kind of sitting on it for the couple of weeks going, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not going to say anything. They're going to change their mind. So I'm definitely grateful. So thank you, Andrew, and everyone. But yeah, I'm shocked. And I've been in recruiting for 2 decades. Not much surprises me. This surprised me.
What about you, Emily?
I echo everything that Amy just shared, and it's so interesting because as coaches, we often hear people's imposter syndrome coming up, like, I don't know if I deserve to be in that seat, they must have made a mistake, it's only a matter of time when they find out, and all of those thoughts percolated for me, but I had to coach myself out of it and just recognize, okay, here's somebody who is recognizing all the consistency or the work that we've done, and what are the chances that it could be just perfect for us? So I'm just very grateful, but also a little bit surprised and shocked, like something's going on with their algorithm because there's so many wonderful creators out there. And, I talk a lot about vanity metrics not really mattering, but sometimes it's hard to see that when you see like, oh, somebody's posting and they're getting like 1,000 likes or, 100 comments. And then my last post got like 20 likes. But it just goes to show that it's not all about vanity metrics.
Yeah. What about you, Nii Ato?
I just really want to echo what Emily shared in that last part. I had one of those, I'm not crying, you're crying moments. Got a little bit misty-eyed of, keeping it real, because I was just in shock that I would be recognized in this way. You think about all the effort we've all put in trying to come up with content, trying to share ourselves, our knowledge, our perspective, and you don't know who's paying attention. You think you're in your own little corner of the world, that you have some engagement, but you just don't know what your impact is. And just picking up from Emily's point, looking at my metrics, I never thought that I'd be getting this type of recognition because all I could see was typically 20 likes, typically 1,000 or so views, and I thought you had to have hundreds of likes, tens of thousands of views on the regular in order to achieve this level of recognition. And so I appreciate the LinkedIn news team for also focusing in on the qualitative aspect of things in terms of what are we talking about, how is it impacting people, is it relevant, is it helpful? And that is what I try to do. And so it's nice to have validation for that. And I really still felt shocked that I was included, still processing it. Imposter syndrome is real. And we're all trying to find our way to navigate through this. So for all of us dealing with that, let's take hold and capture this moment and say, yes, we did do that. And I'm going to keep on reminding myself of that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we should be talking about later on. Someone had a question about imposter syndrome. I just need to address here someone who just posted maybe a spam link that here trying to get people's credit card information. I want to say this show is free. You do not need to enter your credit card information. So whoever's doing that, please get it off there. This show is free right now. Okay. Anyhow, Rhona, you're next.
I, just like everyone else, I was totally shocked. 2021 was like a year that was kind of hard for me on many fronts. So I wasn't as consistent with posting as I wanted to be. So I literally, when I got the email at the beginning of the year, I looked and checked to make sure it wasn't spam or someone like trying to sell me something. I was like, this is not possible. But yeah, just like everyone else, so grateful, so humbled. But I did, leading up, like Amy was saying, I'm like, they're going to change their mind. I only told my husband. I didn't tell anyone else because it's like, and I really didn't believe it until I saw it like posted on that last week when it was posted. But just coach myself through that imposter syndrome and everything like everyone else has been saying.
Yeah. What about you, Rob?
Rhona, it's kind of funny you said that once you saw it, you believe it, because I still kind of don't believe it, right? Like, sitting here, just meeting all of you today, and then, it's very strange. So I do remember, like, I got an email. I think I reread it 3 times because, I got it in the morning. I was like, is this, like, what is this, right? So, like all of you just kind of went through kind of like all the different kind of cycles of emotion and still feels a little surreal because, you know, it's just like, who am I to be on this list? And almost a little bit of like, yeah, it's strange. It's really great. And it, in a weird way, is, you know, it is kind of just encouraging, I hope, to all of you on this call that, yeah, I mean, different content, different voices, it all matters. And you just never, you know, I hate saying it, but you just never know, right? So you really don't know. Like, there's no way, you know, 2021, Rob, you know, posting something that's like literally 0 likes some days, it felt like, you know, that I would be here. So just really cool opportunity, and just a nice way to kind of celebrate with your own networks, and nice to celebrate with all of you today.
Yeah, and agreed. And what I love is that we have such a diverse panel, different backgrounds, like Amy said, and just our own unique take and voice and style as well. And I have to share a story. I remember in December 2020, when Austin Valsack was on my show on Career Relaunch Summit, he actually made a comment that I was LinkedIn top voice. And I was like, Austin, not yet. That had not happened yet. And I said, I appreciate you helping me manifest it. And I remember when I received the news as well, I was like, really, is this true? I wasn't sure. And I wanted to tell Austin, but we were told like to be confidential, not to share about it. So I was like, I got some news, but I can't tell you yet. And meanwhile, he got the news as well too. So yeah, so delighted to be with all of you here. So why don't we dive into the next question is, why and when did you start creating content on LinkedIn? What do you like to talk about on LinkedIn? What's your style? So why don't we start with Amy there?
Yeah, so, you know, for me, I've been on LinkedIn almost since the beginning, I feel like. I don't know how long I've had an account, but, you know, I was recruiting before the internet, so I'm sure I was an early adopter. But when it came to like actually creating content and kind of moving it from simply an outbound recruiting focus to trying to create this, there's 2 ways I look at LinkedIn, and certainly my own LinkedIn profile is, one, I want to be an attractor of great talent for my company. My day job, my top priority is, of course, always going to be finding amazing people for the organization I work for. I want to create this space where people can come to me, they can have questions, they can, you know, learn about opportunities I'm recruiting for. But when the pandemic hit, particularly, and even kind of just leading up to that, definitely felt like there were so many misconceptions and mythology about what recruiting really is and what our responsibilities are and how we can truly be an advocate for both sides, both candidate and, of course, our hiring leaders and businesses. And so I just started creating content around that. My whole goal was, you know, quick little bite-sized nuggets of, hey, this is how recruiters look at resumes. Hey, this is how, you know, we partner with hiring managers. And it just took off. And I've always said all along, like, my goal is to be here for you during a season of your life. Please do not follow me forever and ever, because I want you to go get your dream job and not need me anymore. So that's really my goal. It's just to kind of provide those little bite-sized insights that hopefully just help someone see better success in their job search.
I love that. And for you, because you have a full-time job as well, like how's it been for you in balancing this with your full-time job?
I don't know what balance is. So, I joke around that, you know, my family are like honorary employees of Recruiting in Yoga Pants. You know, my husband is our COO and my daughter is our marketing person. And so every now and again, you might see a tweet written by someone else in the Miller household. But it's hard. You know, I try to do the whole calendar management thing, and there's a certain color on the calendar for this kind of content, but a lot of evenings and weekends and kind of cuddled up on the couch watching Book of Boba Fett while I'm creating content.
Amazing. What about you, Amy? Sorry, Emily?
Yeah, so I would say that I graduated in college in 2009, and that's the first time I created a LinkedIn profile, because that's what like everybody was kind of doing. And then I never touched it again until I became a recruiter in 2013. And this is when I started to realize the power of LinkedIn, because every single day I was trying to find candidates and I was logging in every day. And what's really fascinating is, as a recruiter, I was just posting my job description like most recruiters do, but it wasn't very engaging. There wasn't a lot of like really interesting posts that were happening, right? So for me personally, I used to go to like Facebook to get like feed, you know, entertainment and all of that. So After recruiting for so many years, I just realized that I couldn't give candidates honest, candid feedback, but I had something to share with them. I wanted them to know, what is it that you could be doing better to position yourself? How do you get actual jobs and interviews more easily? So I just started writing on LinkedIn because I didn't need to create a website. I didn't need to learn how to blog. I just started sharing my thoughts and my opinions and just feedback to different users that I didn't even know were really watching or reading. And then over time, I think I developed my own voice because I realized one of the things that I love most is personal development and injecting positivity and optimism. I feel like we all need that. And so I got into, I want to say around 2015, I dove deeply into the world of personal development, and I started to just share what it is that I was learning, what I found helpful, what was fascinating. So that kind of today, more or less frames the type of post that I put out there still. It's very, a lot of people say your posts feel very authentic and genuine. And I feel like that's the best thing you can do, is really write what's true for you that you want to share with the world. So that's kind of my journey on LinkedIn so far.
I love that. Write what's true to you. That's great advice there. And what about you, Nii Ato?
Sure. In the last maybe year and a half, I have come to adopt or embrace the moniker of being an accidental entrepreneur. And so if you would have met me in January of 2019, I would have had no clue I was going to start a career coaching private practice a few months later. And so I, had to step back from my last full-time job for personal reasons. I happened to have the skill set and this knowledge and career development. So I said, okay, this is the most viable path for me to do something. So let me create a career coaching business. Pardon me. And so I understood from the get-go that content was going to be the key for me in terms of reaching my target audience, demonstrating my ability to write as a resume writer and LinkedIn writer. And so I knew that I had to put out content. There wasn't really a choice for it. And so, yes, I had a LinkedIn profile ready, had done nothing with it for years up until I launched my practice in 2019. And my journeys, I started with long form articles that were on my blog, which I then would link to via LinkedIn posts. That wasn't super successful in the beginning. And so I learned, okay, you need to actually have the content fully on LinkedIn. So I started writing my articles on LinkedIn itself through Pulse. And then those started to pick up traction. And then I noticed that, the work of condensing a 1,300 word article into 1,300 characters was a lot. And so that evolved into me creating just a post itself. I honestly do miss long form writing. I really like to do it, but we live in an age where getting people to read articles is a little bit challenging. And so I focus more so on posts these days. And so that has been the journey in terms of what I actually put out there, going from long form to short post, trying to be as practical as possible. And in terms of what I speak about, I fully agree with what Emily said in terms of speaking about what you know and what you care about. And so for me, I have a background in mental health counseling. That's what I got my master's degree in. And so one of the lanes I tried to carve out for myself was speaking about mental health and putting that within the job search context. I happen to be an immigrant, so more recently I started to talk about issues affecting immigrants within the workforce. Last I checked, I'm Black, and so being a person of color in the United States, there are obviously some issues that go with being BIPOC and navigating the workforce. And so I'm literally using my lived experience as the source for my content. And then I'm someone who consumes a lot of media, maybe to a fault, podcasts, news, things like that. And so all these things that flow in and out of my mental space are what I talk about. And it's really inspiration based. What's grabbing my attention? What do I care about? What am I passionate about? And so I think for anyone listening, it really is about starting with yourself and writing things that are true for you, that you would naturally gravitate towards to talk about with your friends, to get annoyed and frustrated about, things you get excited and enjoy talking about. Those are the things that typically lead me to put up a post. And in that way, it's always being sparked from a genuine place internally. And then it helps to reflect that within the content that ultimately comes out.
Oh, I love that. What's resonating in our audience here, right? Really speaking from your own a lived experience, an authentic voice here. What about you, Rhona?
So I've been on LinkedIn forever. I've been in the job force for almost 20 years. So whenever LinkedIn started, I was on LinkedIn. I really started using it when I started recruiting full time a few years ago, but I wasn't posting content. I was using it more to like engage with people, engage with their content, and obviously recruit. So that's where I was using it. In 2020, I was at a crossroads, the pandemic. I lost the job that I had, which was full-time recruiting and candidate experience. And I've always had this prompting to go into career coaching and personal branding coaching, just based on my experiences as an immigrant, as a woman of color, as a Black woman working here in the United States. So in 2020, right before launching How to Level Up, I started creating content. And I'm a video person. I love video. It's helped me tremendously in my career and in everything that I've done. So the content that I share is mostly video content. I do from time to time create posts and my blogs. I also sometimes post them on LinkedIn. But really what I mostly do is long form video. And lately I've been posting some of my short form videos, some of my TikToks and Reels also on LinkedIn. And surprisingly, they've done really well. I always tried to be more professional on LinkedIn and not share that side, but it's really done well. I think, like everyone else was saying, being authentic on LinkedIn with your content and just like being myself and sharing my voice has really helped. A lot of my content is about my experiences, the experiences of my clients. I keep my clients anonymous for many reasons. So I get to use my wigs and my characters from TikTok and other platforms and bring them into LinkedIn.
Amazing. I love this. I love the engagement. I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but there's just such a lot of like words of encouragement here. So I'm loving this. And what about you, Rob?
For me, I started using LinkedIn when I got this current job that I'm in as career strategist, and really it was because we have to teach like LinkedIn workshops and that sort of thing. I just recognized like, hey, I just want to know this tool better. So like it was really just engaging with that. But then in about 2019, so about a year in the role, I just kind of started posting a little bit more, like very, very like kind of sporadically. I decided to give up Facebook. Actually, I've always liked social media, and then I just thought to myself, I don't want to give up social media, but I'll just waste more of my time here on LinkedIn. So literally, again, just looking at that, but then from there, it just kind of, I was a teacher for 14 years. I still view myself as an educator. So I have this weird compulsion that I just need to share, and I need to like educate people, even though you don't want it, right? So I just started kind of posting a little bit more, just testing things out from really just actually celebrating the work that my colleagues at UBC, University of British Columbia, were doing. That was like easy for me to do, right? Talking about other people. Then it kind of morphed into like kind of sometimes sharing a little bit about my work or a project or a day, which was also easy. That's just kind of like reporting, to people. And then it kind of morphed into more of like sometimes showcasing strategies, because again, I work in careers, so I can talk about resume approaches, networking approaches, those sort of things. And then finally it moved into just recognizing and thinking about my audience was speaking to my 20-year-old self, and just thinking about what are the things that I could just reveal in the system or help make easier the way, and speaking to that younger person. And so that was where I really started, I think, finding a little bit more of my authentic voice. I think it's really hard to put yourself out there, right? I think as anyone who's facilitating, I have great empathy for, because you're sending little pieces of yourself out there. And where LinkedIn is a little bit different for me, it's a very nice community. Maybe fake sometimes in some ways because everyone's a little bit on their best behavior because it's, we know that you can use it to find jobs. But I found that very encouraging, unlike maybe some of the other websites where I felt very safe to be vulnerable and use my vulnerability, my privilege, and my power to actually speak to other people. So I kind of like thinking about using my hindsight for other people's foresight, or helping using my voice for others to find their own voices. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Amazing. All right, I'll share a little bit. I mean, for me, I started using LinkedIn more actively back in 2009, 2010 when I was in recruiting. And I was recruiting for an MBA school executive MBA program. So I was traveling around Canada, and that's how I used LinkedIn to stay in touch. And then after that, I was really active when I was a recruiter at Google, where I met tons of people. And after that work experience, I was getting tons of people who want to pick my brain for free or want to have a coffee chat. So that's when I started creating content on LinkedIn. But back then I was really writing more long form blog posts from my website and just sharing it on LinkedIn. And fast forward to 2018, that's when I started creating more video content, like from my iPhone, where I would have these 2-minute video. I did a 10-day 10 tips video where I talked about networking, and I got hooked on that because back then I was like, okay, I got to get these bite-sized content out because I have like a little one, like 2 kids under 2 here. Like, what can I do to still share my voice? And from there, 2020, when the pandemic hit, I really wanted to do more to give back, to really share my voice about job search, careers, personal branding, salary negotiations, and interviews. And then fast forward last year, 2021, that's when I really got more even strategic. I was paying attention to my other fellow LinkedIn top voices from 2021. One of my friend, Sho Duan, I really loved his posts. He was really good at storytelling. And I felt that I shared a lot about my expertise of what I know about the market, but not enough about me. And so that's where I really last year had to get more vulnerable, like, okay, really peeling the onion here. Like, what can I share that could also inspire other people? And for me, my style's always been about empowerment, helping people to reach higher, to really believe in themselves. So a lot of my content has that spin of motivational type of spin to it. I love hosting LinkedIn live streams. Here and on my YouTube and Facebook. I feel this is a great way to connect. I have a huge value for human connection there. So that's a little bit me. Let's move on to the next question here. We got some like great content coming in. So I said, oh, pick my brain. I can totally relate to that. Put the content and give out. Yes, totally. So our next question is, what type of content performed well for you in 2021? Perhaps I'll bring all of us here. We can just have a conversation. Like, if we can just name some content that worked well for you here and to inspire others. Like, Amy, do you want to start?
Yeah, I this is going to sound crazy. And, it ties in nicely to Rob's pillows. Dressing up as Boba Fett, winner, chicken dinner. Hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of comments, 140 applications started on our careers page. Like, I cosplayed, y'all. And that was like my best performing post ever. So I think, it goes back.
Now we're all going to go out and buy some costumes, Amy.
I mean, I should have worn the helmet. I've been kind of wearing it all week in like meetings and stuff. And I think
I was hoping
they were amused at first, and now they're kind of like, okay, you're 47 years old, woman, what are you doing? But no, I think it kind of speaks to what we've all been saying all along about authenticity and not being afraid to just kind of poke a little fun at ourselves and being really raw and vulnerable and real. And especially when you're in a position of some sort of authority, right? I'm a recruiter, so apparently I have the magic keys to the ATS or whatever. That's not really true, but people kind of look at me like, oh, she's in charge. My resume lives or dies with her. I'm just a person. I'm just a human who loves Boba Fett. And I think, just making funny jokes and funny comments, but yet being really real and authentic and trying to plant little seeds of, here's something that you can do, or here's a cool tip. I think that's where the magic lies. So it's a combination of authenticity and also trying to provide something that can immediately be utilized tomorrow. I want people to walk away from my content with an idea that they can go, okay, I can make that tweak. I can have that conversation. I can follow up with that call, and kind of mirroring or, putting those two things together seems to be the winning formula for me.
I love that. I love that. Humor and entertainment. What about you, Nii Ato?
Sure. Two particular posts come to mind. One of them, this was the first time I think for myself personally, I went viral, quote unquote. I took a stand. It was a post about the open to network sash or banner on LinkedIn, and I was questioning the stigma associated with it. The two core questions were essentially, why are we stigmatizing people asking for help? And what does it mean about us if when people are out of work, we look down upon them, right? Why is their value put into question? And so by taking a stand and pushing back a little against something that felt, pretty common in the culture, maybe I was being a bit countercultural, that was one of my best performing posts, by just sharing my thought process on, well, why are we doing this? Is it necessary? And why are we, making people's lives more difficult when the whole point of this platform is to get help and help people find a job? So that was one. Another one, not that the numbers were crazy, but just a really authentic or a really great reaction. I love hip hop. It's my favorite, music form. I used to DJ when I was in college, like the frat and sorority parties. And so, hip hop lyrics tend to come to mind for me sometimes when I'm writing. And so I took a Jay-Z lyric and I use that as a metaphor and allegory for how to sell yourself, in the job search process. The line was, I sell ice in winter, fire in hell. I'm a hustler, baby. I'll sell water to a whale. And so, like, I took that and just turned it into a post, and a lot of people just really, loved the connection between, this art form and the job search. And so, for me, I think the posts that have done the best are ones that were just a genuine spark of inspiration and me sharing something that is from my perspective, how I connect the dots and see the world, and using metaphors and reference points that are just felt true to me. And that's, I think, what has done the best for me when I post.
Amazing. That's great to hear. Awesome. What about you, Rhona?
So for me, I've noticed that the posts that do the best are ones where I'm talking about mistakes that I've made or mistakes that my clients have made. And I think it's because people, one, they want actionable advice, and also they want to relate to someone. They don't want it from someone who seems perfect. I remember when TikTok resumes first came out. So backing up, I've been talking about video cover letters and I've been using them since 2013. So then when TikTok resumes came out, I got the opportunity to see some of them and just people posting what they were posting. And I just went on LinkedIn and I'm like, I knew this would happen. Why is everyone starting their video with, hi, my name is? It's like, don't waste those first few seconds talking about you. Just hook them in. And I was just talking about that. And I shared my video with the 3 common video cover letter mistakes and how to fix them. And that one went viral, like on LinkedIn, on YouTube, everywhere. And everyone was asking me, like, why is that such a big deal? And I just explained in the DMs and the comments and everywhere. So that really resonated with people. Another one that did really well was towards the end of last year. It was about how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. And it's funny because that's not something that I usually talk about. And I really wasn't that excited about that post, but I ended up creating that video and doing it. In creating the video, I needed to create, because it was about a client story, but obviously I wasn't going to use her profile. So I created a profile and did all of these, did everything to optimize it and showed everyone how to do it on the video. But to do that, I started getting like contacted by recruiters and stuff for my fake profile where I wrote, this is fake on the headline. So that got a ton of content from people saying like, what, how did, and it all started on Twitter where I mostly used to hang out last year, and then they funneled into LinkedIn, and I still till this day get lots of comments, DMs, people asking me and telling me how much the step-by-step of how to optimize your LinkedIn profile has helped them get noticed more.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear that. And what about you, Emily?
I'm going to say a blend of everything that has been shared, minus the cosplay. I might have to try that the next video I put out.
Let me know how it goes.
But I think for me, what has really sparked to be true are two things. One is always sharing a personal narrative or story. So to Diana's point, we're all able to share advice or like how-tos, but I think there's something really powerful when you can put it into your own perspective or share your own experiences, because I think a lot of people can see themselves in that. Whether it's a lesson that you learned, a failure, even like just being vulnerable and sharing that so that people can, one, maybe not make the same mistake, but two, if they can relate to you, which most people can relate, then they can see like the positive outcome of that or how you turned it around. And I think just inspiring content is always helpful content, because so many of us go onto LinkedIn because we're looking for either advice or information or inspiration or connection. And so the more personal narratives, I think the better. And then the second one, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of Rhona. It's interesting because I feel like a lot of the content that I put out there that performs the best, I almost like question posting it because I'm like, isn't that too obvious? Like, doesn't everybody know that you're not supposed to just apply online to get a job? Like, you need a network. But, and so for me, I'm like, is this just putting like wasted, I don't know, gigabytes or I'm not a techie, but is this wasted space in this cyber world? But what I realized is oftentimes as a content creator or somebody sharing your expertise, similar to how Diana said, can I pick your brain? A lot of people don't know what you know. And so because you're like an expert or you are so like immersed in the world that you are in, sometimes we forget to like take a step back and be like, oh, like actually we can mentor and help and support somebody. Like somebody actually needs to hear this because we're like maybe 3 steps ahead of them, but there's always somebody who can benefit from the like obvious information that you have inside of you. And so I also want to share that for anybody who is thinking about creating content. You don't have to come up with something new under the sun. You don't have to come up with something original that has never been shared before. You already have something to share, and it's just a matter of putting that into your own experience and your own stories. So that's what I'm going to be doing more of in 2022. And my team and I are also taking a step back and just pushing out content, but getting really strategic and analyzing like what is our audience wanting more of, like what kind of feedback are we getting, what has performed well, what topics are we talking about that people seem to be resonating with and want to know more of. And that's kind of what we're going to build in 2022.
I love that you're taking a strategic approach here. Thank you. Rob, what about you?
I just want to say, Emily, that what you said kind of really resonated with me about the idea of, again, we forget where we are means that other people are at different stages. And so I really hope that people listening recognize that, yeah, you do have assets and values. You just might not think it's going to be seen or needed. So for myself, honestly, for good performing content, I think the easiest thing would be to become a LinkedIn top voice, and then your content's going to do much better. No, I think some of my most recent posts, the activity, of course, has been really robust. I think it mirrors what most of you have been saying. I find a lot of the personal kind of stories, right? Like, again, that storytelling is very powerful, right? And it's a way that you influence people. We know that it's been going on for history, right? The power of storytelling. So, that idea of like show, not tell, or again, I find like trying to weave in a little bit of your personal narrative, a story. Rhona, you mentioned it a little bit about failure. Like to me, yeah, like a lot of the times when I talk about my failure, those vulnerabilities, the ways I've misstepped, but then what I've learned from that, usually that I find really resonates with people. I do want to acknowledge that I try not to do that all the time because, to be honest, it's just exhausting sometimes to think about that story. I think writing personally, because we tend to be harsh critics of ourselves. And then there's a little bit of like, I don't know if I want to actually share this with lots of people. And so I find when I write those sort of posts, I tend to maybe write one a month of those ones or one a week. There's those ones they take a little bit more out of me, especially because I'm just writing in the morning before my job and writing in the evening after I put the kids to bed. So, but yeah, I mean, it sounds cliche, and you're going to see it over and like that authentic voice and authentic you, but it is sort of true actually when I think about some of my top performing posts.
Yeah, that's great to hear that. Do you feel there's like a pressure right now that you've been named at LinkedIn Top Voices, as pressure we need to create better quality content?
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna step up my game here.
Well, no, I just put a pause though. I'm saying, well,
Yeah.
why would I change the way that I'm doing things? Because that's what got me to the dance, right? So,
Right.
but yes, there's a couple momentary panic of like, oh my goodness, I hope all these new followers don't expect gold, because I'm not going to deliver gold. I'm going to deliver a lot of crap too, right?
I love that. I love how we're just keeping this real as well. Like, I know for me, like I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself, right? Being a high achiever there. And when I look back at the posts that perform well, really similar, like some of the, like for me, it's a lot of the storytelling lessons learned. The one that performed the best was when I shared about my story, how growing up I was not confident, and how I moved here to Canada all by myself when I was 16. And I talked about all my struggles where like I failed grade 13 English, I had to take it multiple times and all that. And it was a very vulnerable post for me. And it actually, many times I tried to delete and not post it, but I just had no clue that was a post that performed really well. And that started my journey of sharing my own personal stories last year. And what's interesting is I have this balance of also sharing stories of lessons learned from my kids. So I have these balance where sometimes I'll just this moment, like my kids are teaching me a moment of don't give up. For example, like I took my son last year to climb up this warrior wall, and he kept climbing. I took a video of him, and it had this lesson like don't give up. And I try to spin it back to like job seekers that you're going to face these like type of rejections as well, but don't give up. So I get inspiration from that, even though I'll have a plan of the topics I'll talk about from a career jobs or standpoint, but then I'll bring in inspiration from day-to-day moments. And the other ones that I did really well was when I shared client wins with the struggles and lessons learned as well. So it's not just sharing about the highs, the companies they join or how much money they make, but also talking about, hey, like the challenges and the struggles. There are many times I had people like, because of that post, they wanted to reach out to me to talk to me. So it just really solidified how the importance of also the relationship building, where they feel like you're also connecting to them, that you get them and you understand them. So for me this year, the plan is really continue to really understanding what the audience wants to hear more of as well, and really delivering that content. And I want to try out to do more carousel posts. It's something that I didn't do as much last year. I'm experimenting with the marketing, the carousel slide type of posts, and doing more short videos. I want to join with Emily. You're doing these fun short videos right now on your Instagram. That's something I want to try out as well there.
It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend.
You got to really bring out the creative juice. I think we need like a brainstorming session on that. All right, so want to take more questions from the audience. I want to hear from you. Feel free to ask us anything. We're going to be diving into questions from you as well. What questions do you have for us about using LinkedIn for your career and job search? Feel free to type that in. So before we dive into that, I want to get into is how to start creating content on LinkedIn. For those who are watching today and they're inspired by your story, what advice do you have for them to start creating content on LinkedIn? What's something actionable they can do?
I'd love to take this one. So I think that one of the best things that you can do is start to jot down and brainstorm different topics that you care about, like topics that are interesting to you. And what's really cool on LinkedIn in the search bar, you usually type in a name or like a title or company, but you can type in the keyword and you can go to the filters and check out the post with that keyword in it. And this is something I think LinkedIn created as a feature not too long ago, but I would literally like go through, read the post, and then start commenting on the post. Like whether you agree, share why, whether you disagree, share why, whether you have an opinion, share that opinion. I think oftentimes a lot of people just write yes or I agree, but you want to spark the conversation. And so that's a really great way to, one, connect, but two, also discover what you're passionate about talking about. And the new feature on LinkedIn is they actually prompt you. I think they're really trying to encourage people to share their message. So it'll say like, do you want to turn this comment into a post? And then you can just hit yes, or whatever that link is, elaborate on it, create it, and just hit publish. I know a lot of times are like the first post I did, I was probably sweating. Like I probably had a change after. It could be very intimidating to be like, oh my God, like what are people going to say? Are they going to agree with me? But look, not everybody's going to agree with you. Even if you have the most brilliant idea on this planet, not 100% of people are going to agree with you. And it's not about pleasing everybody. It's about just sharing your voice and finding those people that are in your tribe, because your voice matters, and what you're going to share with them is going to spark a conversation. It's going to get you visible. It's going to build opportunity. And the more you do it, like I love thinking about, okay, this is my first post or my first video. It's going to suck. It's just the expectation, but I can't wait to look back like 6 months from now, a year from now, and just see how much I've developed and progressed. And I think this is really where having a growth mindset of knowing like, I don't have it all figured out, and that's okay. I'm not perfect, and that's okay, but I'm gonna get there. I'm willing to practice in order to get there. And so that's my biggest advice. Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
Just do it. Take it from Nike.
Yeah. And
If I could
anyone
jump in
else?
next.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have 3 points. I'll try and make them as quickly as I can. One of the pieces of advice I give to my clients who are interested in increasing their activity and starting to share on LinkedIn is to share an article. Is very low bar for entry. However, add a little bit of your own analysis to the post. Don't just share a naked link and stop there. This could be your reaction to the article, a question that came to you because of what you read, a disagreement with the content of the article, or expanding on an idea that really resonated with you in the article. And so this is not you doing fully original content, a 1100 character post, whatever it is. This is you sharing something that exists and adding your own spin or take on it. And I think that's a really simple way to start the process of getting comfortable with sharing your voice, your thought process, your industry knowledge, or what have you on the platform. And then from there, you can progress over time to doing a fully original post all on your own. As Emily was saying, commenting on people's posts is an amazing value-added way to engage on the platform. And so this could be just offering a simple starting point for all of you if you want to start posting content on LinkedIn, is share an article and share your thoughts about that article. The second thing I wanted to say was about vulnerability. This is something that's come up a lot in our conversation so far. In my training as a therapist, we were told to be intentional with our vulnerability because as a therapist, it's not about you, it's about the person in the room. But I think we have responsibility as content creators that when we are being vulnerable, what's our purpose or intention behind the vulnerability? And so if I'm sharing to put myself on blast or look shiny and cool, that's not helping anybody else, that's helping me. But if I'm trying to use a story, a lesson learned, a failure, talk about imposter syndrome, if my intention is to help others, then I can validate that as a good potential point of vulnerability that is serving a bigger purpose than being vulnerable for the sake of vulnerability. And I once heard someone say that if you are going to be vulnerable, in the ideal scenario, it's something that you've dealt with and not something that's necessarily like super raw that is still just not in a good place because that might appear messy. And it's okay to be messy. I'm not trying to say you got to be perfect, but again, if you're in such a raw state, being vulnerable, it might be harmful to your own brand or to others if what you share is not quite in the right space. And then the final point that I'll make is that so in terms of organizing content and having a plan, things like that, I had a conversation with Jessica Sweet, who's one of our colleagues, and in that conversation I learned that I'm a pantser. And so this is coming from the editing world, book writers, and I had no clue about this before. Some people are planners. There are book writers who have an outline, every character is diagrammed and detailed to the T before they start writing. And then there are other people who fly by the seat of their pants, pantsers. And so I learned in that conversation, I'm a pantser, and it's totally okay to be a pantser. I just earned a LinkedIn top voice without a content strategy. I'm someone who keeps a little on my iPhone, the notes app. If I have an idea that, I see something on TV, an article, something on LinkedIn, a conversation, I jot down a little note about, this could be a good post later on. And then I will read through that and put something up. But I typically fly by the seat of my pants. That's been true since school, where I'm the type of person who write an essay without an outline. I figure things out as I go. That's just how my brain works, and thankfully it works for me. So just letting everyone know out there that a content strategy is great. I'm not knocking it. I'm not good at doing that, but I'm okay so far, and you can be too.
I love that. You're giving permission that you don't need to have a plan or strategy. Amy, you have something to say?
I was just going to say, I didn't know there was a word for it. I am also a pantser. So
All right, pantsers unite.
I'm a pantser too. Like I just,
little notebook. I can't read my own handwriting, so it's not super helpful, but I do jot down things. But I would also add, I mean, I totally agree with everything that's been said so far. I think for me, and again, part of this goes back to having a day job, which I do need to be mindful of, and I can't embarrass my company or myself too much. So I have a filter that I run everything through, right? And filter number one is, will I defend this comment or this post in my CEO's office? Now, sometimes the answer is probably, but I always want to make sure, like, if this goes to the CEO, am I going to get fired? And then also I want to make sure that I'm not creating content that is performative. I think when we start going viral, or we start getting success, or we start getting recognized, like that dopamine hit, man, it's addictive. And so what I always want to check myself, and my family's great at this. If you don't have teenagers, I can't say that I recommend getting some, but I can say that they will keep you humble. So, sometimes I'll just like share it with my kids, especially when I'm playing around with TikTok. And if they roll their eyes and laugh, then I'm okay. I can go ahead and post that. So make sure that you have people around you that can be a trusted truth filter, and make sure that you're not getting too big for your britches, so to speak, and that you're not really taking this opportunity and this stage to just become performative. I don't love it. I think we all recognize it when we see it, and I try really, really hard to not be that person.
That's great advice. Thank you for that. Rob, did you want to add your 2 cents, or Rhona?
I can go. So similar to what a lot of what everyone else has said, it's just being authentic, being yourself. I spend a lot of time engaging with other people's content on LinkedIn, and that's what like really starts my like creative, like, okay, I saw this post, I have this opinion, or I have this, or this sparked this other thing. Like everyone else, I have notebooks. This is my TikTok notebook, and I have my LinkedIn notebook, and all of that for ideas. But just engage with other people's content. That way you know what other people are talking about, what the questions are in the comments. I found so many prompts for content for that I then go and create. But the most important thing is, don't do it for you. Like, it's not self-serving content. A lot of what like Nii was saying of like, yeah, be vulnerable, be yourself, but don't do it for performance reasons. Do it to really help someone. So anytime I come up with an idea, what I like to do is think of who I'm going to help and put a name to that. So if I saw a comment on LinkedIn about someone asking that, when I'm creating my video, when I'm creating that content, I'm thinking about that person, whoever it is, whether I know them or not. Let's say their name is Jen. I'm creating this for Jen. I'm going to help Jen. And I do come back to that comment and post my video. Hey, Jen, I saw this, or I created this. This is my answer to this question that you had. So if you're always thinking about who you're going to help, I think that really helps it. One, keep you humble. I don't have teenagers like Amy who can like make sure and keep you in check, but I always keep someone in mind. And just, I'm, I guess, a mix of planner and pantser, but I always have an outline and a plan, and then I turn on the camera and the line doesn't go like I wanted it to, and then I'm like, forget it, and I say it however it came out. So I always have to end up editing my videos because I can't give someone an outline, because whatever's in that outline doesn't end up on film.
So I'm with you. Rhoda, I'm with you. I'm in the, by the way, there's so many comments and saying that I'm a pantser as well. I love it. I love this conversation. I'm a bit of both. I would say I'm a planner, but I also go a lot by inspiration of how I feel or what's going on in the world around me as well. I like to have the outline, but then I'm like the other day, it's Chinese New Year. I'm like, all right, I want to do a post on Chinese New Year. That was not planned. It's just like, it's Chinese New Year. I want to do it. So I'm with you on there. I think that for me, I'm always thinking about who am I serving? That's the perspective. Like, who am I serving? How can I be of service? And how can I really inspire them? For me, it's really hard for me to, when I think, I love what Amy said about, but defending your content. I know for me, I tend to write more content that's more inspirational. I find it hard if I need to like stir up something, like just to start something very controversial. That's just not me. I just know that because I'm like, okay, will I be able to defend that? I may not have the energy to do that. So I wanted to hear from Amy, like, how do you deal with, let's say, the haters? How do you deal with that? Because I know you have controversial posts as well. How do you deal with that? And for me, it's actually very hard for me to do those type of the content, but I know that it's necessary to step up to have a stance.
It's yeah, no, I'm so glad that you're opening up the conversation to that topic. And I do struggle, with kind of straddling that line between helpful and inspirational and also really real and like tough love, and I think, maybe it's a little Gen Xer, maybe it's a little like tired mom of 4 and they're all mouthy and grown now. I don't know what has made me this way, but I feel like, just again, going back to authenticity, going back to, and I'll give you an example, right? Like we hear a lot about networking and there's a lot of just, hey, go network. Yeah, networking's the way. Networking is the way. And people are like, okay, how do I do that? Oh, just go network. And I just want to rip my hair out because I'm like, people don't know. If you don't live and breathe this every day, then we need to actually peel back the curtain a little bit, shine a light, or just say, hey, pay me and I'll tell you. That's okay too. We all have to make money. So that's a lot of times where I kind of get in trouble because I will push back and I will say, well, gosh, here's what I know to be true. And here's what I've experienced. And, so it sometimes when some folks, not this group, absolutely not, but there are some folks out there that tend to be more of that performative, kind of content producer. And they're usually the ones that, don't like my shenanigans. And so for me, the way that I navigate that is I will share it with my husband, who is my best friend in the world since I was 15 years old. So he knows me better than anybody, including my parents. And I just kind of run it by him and say, did I go too far? Was this okay? What do you think? And he'll tell me if I went too far and I owe somebody an apology. But for the most part, he'll remind me that, Amy, you're authentic. You're saying what's true. You're saying what you know to be true. And, the internet is not kind, right? And so there's a difference between a person and people. A person is kind and smart and unique and special, and people can very quickly become this mob mentality. And we've seen that happen over and over again on the internet, where now everybody's coming at you with pitchforks. And my husband is very quick to remind me that these people are never going to sit at our dinner table. These people do not know you. These people watched a 30-second clip. They read a 2-sentence comment. They're not coming over for Thanksgiving, Ames. Don't worry about it. You did nothing wrong. So.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's great to hear. So we have a question from the audience here. Is any tips on creating video content? Let me see
I'd like to take that one.
Sure.
So my tips are always, don't make it about you, keep it short, and get right to the point. And as I get a lot of criticism for what I'm going to say next, but just hit record. Your first video is most likely going to suck. I cringe when I look at my first video ever from 2013. It gets better. But as long as you're serving, as long as you're not doing it for yourself and you're sharing content, someone is going to benefit from that content. Someone's going to like it. It's going to help someone else, but just keep it short. Video, like many times people want to talk for a long time on video, and people's attention spans are really short with social media and just how things are. So just get right to your point, make it short. And as you do more and more videos, then you'll grow and you'll be able to do like the longer ones and keep people engaged. But don't worry about the bells and whistles, editing, anything. Just hit record. Just start and post something.
Love that. Love that. I'm going to share my 2 cents as well. For me, I'll think of the topic and then I'll think about the 3 key points. I like to keep things in threes. What are key tips? And then I'll have some sort of a call to action. So I just think about that and I literally map it out on Post-it note. The day I'll just map it out and then I'll just hit record on the phone and I just do it. And I totally agree with you, Rhona. The first time you do it, you're going to sound so awkward. The more you do it, you're just going to get better at it. And I find that it's actually easier for me to run a live stream more fluidly than pre-recorded videos. Like a pre-recorded videos, I could probably do it 5 or 10 times to just get that 2-minute clip there. So do what works for you. Find your flow of what works well for you. Emily, I know you do quite a bit of videos as well. Any tips on this? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, I think my AirPods died.
There you go.
There's a little bit of an echo, so I apologize for that. What I was going to say is that when I first started video, it was very frightening. I am not a camera person naturally, but again, I kind of went in with it using a growth mindset of just wanting to see that progression. But I also started off on IG stories because I knew no matter how awful it was just going to disappear in 24 hours. And then I progressively kind of moved up to Facebook Live, to starting a YouTube channel, to doing live streams. And it's just the practice of putting yourself out there. And now, what used to take me like 30 minutes to record a 2-minute video. Now it takes me maybe like 10 minutes, 15 minutes if I'm lucky. So it just gets better and better.
Awesome. That's great to hear that. One of the questions someone asked that's submitted through the audience anonymously here is how to overcome imposter syndrome to share content on LinkedIn. How to overcome that? I'm sure
I'd like to talk about that actually.
Yeah.
Can I talk about that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
So I'm going to bring in a little bit of science here. It's like this weird question sometimes to ask is like, what do you need to feel safe? And what it is, the imposter syndrome is just a little bit of extension. Like your amygdala, right, is like reacts to like threats, right? Fight or flight. And your amygdala, when it feels threatened, its number one goal is to keep you safe. And, back in the day, it was really good when you're like, there's a fire, right? And there's life-threatening situations, but all this stimuli that you're getting. So the idea of like, oh, I don't know if I should post. There's a lot of fear that gets us to a lot of like almost like feeling frozen. And what that does is you can't actually access your prefrontal cortex, which is where reasoning, creativity, networking, all the things that you actually need to post. And so I often just think of like, what is it that I'm feeling? Write it out. And really writing it, because that actually slows your brain down to like actually attenuate the level of threat. And I know this sounds funny, but it's really just starting with like what you need to feel safe. Because if you're not feeling safe, your brain's not feeling safe, it's really, really hard then to even post, or those imposter syndrome is just a version of that. So I do that all the time. It's just like, what am I feeling? What I need? And just really attending to that. So because it's really hard when you have to hit that button or push it out. And again, that just do it, I love that phrase for myself as well, but often it's like really hard for a lot of us to just do it because we're not feeling safe. So start easy, right? Like again, going back to content, like an easy one for all of you here right now is literally you can do reporting or think about your own strengths. Like you don't need to be the sort of writers that you're seeing. You just say, how are you? Like if you're like a collector, if you like love information, like that's the way that you can post, right? So I think that's where again authenticity goes into it. Like I look up to and respect everyone here. Like someone like Amy, I could never actually do what Amy does because that's not me. But I love reading her content. She takes real hard stances. She stands up to people. She dispels lots of myth, and I learn a lot. But I know that's not my voice, right? And so I think that sometimes we see other people and we wish we were them. We never really like ourselves, really, right? I'm in my brain all day. I don't like it. And so, it's often, but really accepting our strengths, right? Like you don't have to do it that way. And then what's interesting though is then you get to learn a little bit from each and every person that you might be following to try something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone. So again, today, the easy one would be like a great question is, what's your takeaway, right? So you could just report, I attended this event today. Here was my takeaway. There's your post, right? You're just reporting something. And I like just thinking about safe ways for different people to get engaged with content.
I love that take there. Like, start easy, but also stick to, like, stay in your lane of what your voice is. Like a simple one you said, like the takeaway from today's session. There's so many golden nuggets here. Like, what are your top 3 key lessons? Share the replay with your network as well. You can easily do that. And that's like adding value to your network as well. So thank you for that. So another question that came in from the audience was, there was this question around how to answer, why did you leave your previous employer? And this is specifically regard to this whole great resignation. Millions of people have left their job. If it was due to like a poor culture fit or they treated poorly by their boss. Amy, would you like to take this? Like hearing from a recruiter's perspective.
Love to.
Like what to say, what not to say. Can we maybe give some examples here? I feel like a lot of people are in this say, like, what do I really say that's okay to say?
Absolutely. So I think my friend Gigi Gallagher actually addressed this. If you are not following her, please do. She is amazing. The Amazon interview Wiz, highly, highly recommend her for all things interview related for any company. But I think she actually talked about this on LinkedIn. It might have been today. I think I saw the post today. And companies, first of all, I don't think should ask, right? Why are you leaving? I will tell you from a recruiting perspective, because I have asked this question a lot over the last 22 years. The only reason I care is because I'm looking for those closing or those buying signals. If you're, well, I left because, it was compensation or because the commute was too long or because of, then I can kind of be like, okay, I can get this person that. I can get them more money. I can get them a better commute. I can get them whatever. So for me, from a recruiting perspective, it's more about understanding what I need to offer you that might have been missing for you in your most recent role or your previous role. However, I think that COVID has completely put us all in a box and shook us up and spilled us all out. So I feel like a lot of the old rules no longer apply. I know my thoughts and feelings on a lot of this stuff are certainly evolving as a recruiter. And so I think the right answer, if you have separated and you're no longer with that organization, then it's perfectly okay to just say, I'm ready for the next new thing. It was COVID related, it was whatever. You don't have to explain. But I think if I'm currently employed, for example, and I'm getting that question, then I want to just say, I'm really focused on what's next. I had a wonderful experience at ABC Company. As you can see, I was there for 2.5 years and I learned a lot of really great things. But I'd love to tell you more about what I'm looking for next and the things that are really important to me in my next role. That's a very polite way of saying that's none of your business.
You were so smooth with that. And you got to say it with a smiling face too.
You got to smile. And that's why it's so funny because like Rob pointed out, I do tend to get a little pokey on LinkedIn and stuff. And I always find it hilarious when people are like, I don't like your tone. And I'm like, but I was laughing when I typed that. You guys missed all the body language and all the, we're having fun. I'm Irish. This is how we show love.
Amazing. Amazing. Anyone else want to add before I move to the next question?
I'll just add that I like to reframe this question from why did you leave your previous employer to why are you interested in this new current company or role? So very similar to Amy's approach. You don't have to dive into, all of the mismanagement or toxic workplace, but start sharing what you are looking more for. Because I think a lot of times as candidates, we have the power to express what we truly want that's aligned for us so that the the employer can also be like, actually, we don't offer great work-life balance. Maybe we don't give this job to her, but you're actually dodging yourself from a red flag. So I think that going back to authenticity on your post, but also authenticity for the way that you show up in your interviews is just going to be the best long-term strategy.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to add my 2 cents here is if you're in a state feeling really angry, mad, or sad, process those emotions. Like I have dealt with clients where they're feeling in that state of just not happy at all. And it's so important to talk to someone so you can process that so that when you're actually going to the interview, you are presenting a way that you feel your best self. Like just the way how Amy did it, that it just makes it sound like, okay, they're ready to move on. They're ready for their next gig here. Okay. So, and this next question that ties into this, as someone submitted, is how to overcome interview anxiety and communicate value to the prospective employer. Anyone want to add?
Yeah, I can take this one. So there's a lot of things, and I can share from my personal experience. I'm very introverted, and even though I love interviewing, it wasn't what I loved at the beginning. I work out, so I go to the gym before. I have like a ritual or like this is what I do before an interview. I definitely go to the gym. I listen to music that Eye of the Tiger. I don't love that song, but I listen to that before an interview. Just like gets me ready, ready to do this. I also go to my LinkedIn and look at all of the recommendations that I've had, and I read them because these are people who have worked with me. I hardly ever ask for them. They usually give them to me, and it just reminds me of how great or good. It's even hard for me to say that, but before an interview, I get in that zone of looking at any client email that has ever sent me, any boss that had said something good about me, any performance review thing. I screenshot those and I keep those in a folder. And before an interview, I go and read that to remind myself that I'm actually good at what I do. And that like puts me in the zone to then communicate it to someone else.
Amazing.
Oh, I like that one. That's great.
Yeah. Anyone else want to add?
Yeah, I would just add, sorry, just very, very quickly. If you write down your answers or you kind of take that time to maybe think about, okay, here's the career stories I want to tell, try writing it in third person like you're talking about someone else. It flows much easier because it's so hard to talk about me. Well, I did this thing and I'm great. But if I'm like, Amy Miller created this thing, and then you go back and read it like, dang, Amy Miller's a beast. I can't wait to brag about her. So kind of doing that third person thing just for yourself, that's been a help for me.
I love that.
And I would just add thinking about what's the purpose of the interview, right? Reminding yourself why you've been invited. So one of the first things that if you get called for an interview, they like you already for whatever reason. There's something in your resume, your background, your skill set that met the mark for them enough to call you in to speak. Once you're there, they're hoping, and hopefully my recruiters can validate this for me, they're hoping you're the right candidate. Interviewing takes time, it takes resources, it costs money, and taking people offline from their day-to-day work. And so they're hoping that once you enter that room, they can end the interview process there because you're the right fit. And so they're kind of rooting for you from the jump. And so if you can remind yourself that your counterpart across the table wants you to succeed, that will hopefully help you to tamp down the anxiety. Remember, they like you already and they want you to be the right fit. And then the third and final point that I'll make is around just self-empowerment. They're screening you just as much as you can screen them. You don't have to accept a job offer. And I think all of us would agree that we want all of our clients to really focus in on finding the right fit. And so you should be going in there asking all the questions that you need to discern whether or not this company will be the proper fit for you. Do your values align? Do they support you in terms of your needs to be an effective worker? Are there growth opportunities? Is the compensation right? Obviously, it's a little bit further down the line. Do they have the benefits you need that will help you take care of yourself and your family? Are they walking the walk when it comes to diversity? Did they take care of their employees well during COVID? So these are all things that you are empowered to ask because they're asking you questions as well. And so one of the best tactics is to try and turn it into conversation. And that means you're on equal footing. You're two humans in a room, getting to know one another and trying to figure out if there's a good mutual fit. And the answer is either going to be yes or no. There are only two outcomes. and that's okay. But just know that you have the power to find out if it's a good fit for you.
I love that. I love that. To wrap up on this, for me, I'm really big on affirmations. I know, Emily, you do that with your clients as well, like writing affirmations. Like, one of yours is like, I'm an amazing hire. I like to say I'm a qualified candidate. And the one thing to do, like when you get on camera, is really pump yourself up. This is something I learned from Tony Robbins training, is getting yourself in a state of excitement. So just even saying the words, I am excited. I am excited to meet this person. I'm excited for this opportunity. Just saying it 3 to 5 times, it increases, what's that word there? Is it dopamine? Like,
serotonin, maybe?
Yeah, it gets you excited. Like you're just naturally excited and you're going to appear more attractive and confident. Studies have shown this as well. So just getting yourself in that state of excitement will really help there to help minimize anxiety. And then I always say, if you ever get thrown off, silence is powerful, and breathe. That's going to get you in the calm state there. Okay. So we're going to be wrapping up soon in the next 10 minutes. If you have any final questions, feel free to submit to us here. There was another question here I want to ask is around networking. How to network effectively on LinkedIn, what not to do.
I'll jump in if that's okay. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on this, obviously. I've kind of talked about it earlier in this call, but I think it's, first of all, really know your audience, right? I think it's, there's both short-term and long-term networking. I won't belabor this too much because I could go all day and I want to keep this quick so my fellow friends can weigh in as well. But, there's kind of that short term, like, hey, you're a recruiter and I'm a candidate and you're hiring for this role and I'm a fit for it. Let's talk. That's totally fine. It's a little more transactional. It's a little more short term. There is nothing wrong with that because when qualified candidates fall into my inbox, it is like Christmas. I love it. So that's one approach. And then your longer term networking, I think this is where you're building those longer term relationships, people that you've worked with, people that maybe you want to work for someday. And it may just be a simple reach out. Hey, I just want to be part of your network. We make that connection. It's been said before by other folks here on this panel about, commenting on people's content, sharing their articles and posts. And I've made a lot of people that I've never met, but I consider friends because we've kind of bonded over just sharing content and talking about recruiting and job search stuff. So I think it's, as long as you're just understanding the audience, you're respecting how they are using LinkedIn, if they're active on it, if they're quick to respond. My in-mail box is a mess, so bear with me if you've messaged me. And then just kind of react accordingly. There's no one-size-fits-all strategy. I do have a How to Network with Recruiters blog post and video. If anyone's curious specifically for recruiting, how that works, you can check that out. But just be your authentic self and just try to reach people where they are. That's the biggest thing.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else want to add?
I'd like to add, Diana. So I want to echo everything that Amy just shared. I also want to just go back to being personal in your messages. I can tell you on any given day, I log in and I have like 50 unread messages, but I don't get back to every single one of them. A lot of them are just like one-liners, like, hey, how are you doing? Don't really know what I can help you with, what your needs are. I'm not here to like have a chat back and forth as much as I'd like to connect. We're all busy, right? And so it's just about being really personal. I don't know if you guys get this. I get a ton of sales emails from like salespeople that like copy and paste, and I can completely tell. So many of them don't even know what I do. A lot of them think I'm a staffing agency that needs help finding candidates. I'm like, no, I help candidates find jobs, and so it's like, be personal. Like the messages that have come through that I've actually taken time to respond to are people who are saying things like, hey, Emily, I want to reach out. You don't know me, but I've been following your content and I really love that YouTube video you did on XYZ, or I love that your mission is to help people wake up happier on Mondays. Like when they can customize it and personalize it, they've immediately hooked me in. And then what I want to know is like, what can I help you with? Because to pick your brain, to have a chat and not really know what the end goal is, that's a big, tall order, right? That's kind of like what Diana was saying. Like, I don't need people like picking my brain all the time. Be very transparent in what you would like the person that you're reaching out to help you with, because that's when they can be very authentic as well and be like, yes, I would love to do that. Or, I don't have the bandwidth for this, but here's some other resources, right? And another thing that I want to just emphasize for job seekers, especially, is not to be afraid to follow up. I always believe the power is in the follow-up because, like I said, a lot of, especially recruiters, they have inundated inboxes, and it's not so much that they're not responding because they don't care or they don't think that you're qualified or they don't want to talk to you. Chances are they just need another ping because, again, we're in this world where we're just like bombarded with messages and like requests, but our intentions are there. We just want to sometimes have a friendly reminder to be able to connect. And that's what networking is about. It's not a one-time transaction or like a one-time message. Oftentimes it's this relationship that gets progressed through multiple encounters.
That's great. Robin, you got yours to add?
Yeah, building off of Emily, it's that reach out. It's really actually building trust with people, right? So, and how you can do that again is by doing that research, going and like looking at it. So I love what Emily's saying about connecting. Like, I saw your post, I saw this. Like, that's one way, again, you can start building trust. Again, if you haven't built trust with someone, you're already asking them for their time. Like, that's big right there. And then for you to then jump into like, hey, do you have a job or can you help me? This is sometimes hard. It's like we do want to help, but it's not necessarily like you haven't built that trust there. I then think about, reframing networking. So again, I'm an introvert. I've worked on it. And so I think of the different levels of networking. So I think sometimes when people think of networking, it's like, oh, you know all these people really well. You have these amazing ties. You have this great, like, strong. And if you read like some of like Mark Granovetter's work on, social networks and relationships, he actually talks about weak ties versus strong ties. So right now on this call, we're all weak ties where you kind of know someone, and weak ties are very important for your career development because that's how you learn new information, right? Your friend group, your family group, you have the same interests. You're not learning new industries and new positions. And that's where the power of LinkedIn is from a network standpoint. Those weak ties where, in careers, we say you can't be what you can't see. You're like, I didn't know you could get paid for that job, or that's a job. Weak ties are huge. And it's shown consistently that it actually has as big of an impact as your strong ties. So that was a big reframe for me of showing up on LinkedIn and recognizing I don't need to be best friends with it. I mean, if it happens, great, but you don't necessarily need that. And that leads to the last thing is like, being specific in your requests or asks, right? Like, again, trying to get it to like a yes or no, or it's very clear what you're asking. I think that goes with content creation. When you're broad, yeah, you can maybe hit more of a general audience, but you don't get your voice. Same thing with networking. Really drill it down and make it easier for that person to respond. That means you have to do more of the work, unfortunately, with your message, with your reach out. And then lastly, don't have anything about cryptocurrency, because like right away that I'm out, unfortunately. And I don't understand anyone, but every time I accept someone with cryptocurrency and I accept, I'm like, maybe this is the one that I'm not going to, and inevitably 100% of the time you get the DM with a pitch and no, I'm not interested.
So
we're not starting career coaching NFTs yet? That's not a thing just yet?
Someone's going to have to explain to me what that is first, because I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, to really sum up,
career, but unfortunately,
I love it. To me, like networking is all about give before you get. Like I have my ABC rule that I talk about all the time is always be connecting, always be curious, always be cultivating. And it's really a long-term thing. Like for me, like I came to Canada all by myself when I was 16 and I had to really build my network from the ground up. And I've really learned the power, like Rob said, like you never know where you can get opportunities, not necessarily from your closest friends. It could be your second, third, or fourth level connection to give you those opportunities there. So we're going to wrap up here. I want to ask the audience here is like, what's your biggest takeaway? What action will you take to help you advance your career or how you're going to leverage LinkedIn? Please type in the comment to let us know what's your biggest takeaway. This was such a fun and amazing conversation. All right. I just want to say thank you to you all for being here, for your time, for your energy and presence. I love it. I want to encourage all of you to follow us on LinkedIn. So you see probably see on the screen is follow all of us. I also want to just also display our other fellow LinkedIn top voices as well. Austin Belsack, Jasmine Escalera, Katrina Kibben, and Mia Williams. These are our other fellow LinkedIn top voices for 2022 in job search and careers. So follow us on LinkedIn. Feel free to share this replay as well with your network if you found helpful. We appreciate it. Any final advice that you want to share with the audience in terms of what can one start doing now with their career and job search? What's your final advice?
I would like to just say that your LinkedIn profile is like a free billboard, and it's such a missed opportunity if you don't have something on there that is showcasing what you really want to be known for and you want to be passionate about. And maybe you don't know what that is right now, and that's okay. Just start sharing and taking in all of these tips because it's the action that creates clarity. And the more you do it, the more you're going to know and the more others are going to know about you. And honestly, the opportunities that can come your way are limitless, but you need to be visible and be seen.
Love that. Love that.
I'll jump in next. I'd say that one of the most important things to do and think about in your career development and job search advancement is to start with yourself. And what I mean by that is get really clear on what it is you want and need in order to thrive, be successful, have fulfillment, have happiness, however that's defined for you as you advance, whether within the same organization or as you look for a new job. Very quick analogy. People spend more time researching vacation spots than they do their next employer. My brother and sister-in-law had a binder for their 1 week trip to Portugal of all things they wanted to do, where they're going to eat, what they're going to see, all these things. Have any of us ever created a binder for the employer we want to work for next? And so I'm not saying we've got to go exactly to that extent, but really research. You're going to be spending not a week, but 52 weeks a year in this place, 40 plus hours a week. You want to enjoy that environment the same way you want to enjoy your vacation spot. And so bring that vacation research energy into your job search energy and figure out, what do I want? What will make me happy? What will make me successful? And if you do that pre-work before you launch into the job search, you'll have far greater chance of success as you move through.
Amazing.
So don't be a pantser in your career and job search.
Don't be pants in your career. I love it. Yeah, you called me out on that one. That's great. Yeah. You be a pantser with content, but not a pantser when it comes to career planning. For sure, 100%.
That's a good one.
I would say it's important to acknowledge your feelings. The job search is very hard. There's a lot of rejection involved. There's a lot that goes into it. So acknowledge that and take some time to think about things and process them. A lot of what we were talking about today before going into an interview, process these things. I keep a journal when I'm job searching, just write things out. Give yourself permission to be sad when you lose out on a job. Give yourself permission to be happy when you do good and move on to the next phase of the interviews. And also have a plan. It's more about quality than amount of applications. You're going to drive yourself crazy if all you do is just apply, and not give yourself some time to feel your feelings during the job search.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
Amy, any final words?
Yeah, absolutely. I got to tell you, one of the highlights of all of this, top voice stuff is I got a message from Austin. He was so sweet, and he, congratulated me. We both made the list this year, and he even made a comment. He's like, "So you and I have very different perspectives." And, yes, sir. Yes, we do. But I think that's the beauty of not only bringing together this group of 10 and this panel of 6, but I think that's a really important takeaway for job seekers is you're going to be bombarded with lots of advice. You're getting advice from all of us. You're getting advice from your mom. You're getting advice from your colleagues. And honestly, as long as you are behaving ethically and you are doing things that work for you, you're doing it right. You don't have to follow my scripts. You don't have to follow that person's playbook. You don't have to buy that person's, coaching. You may want to because it's probably great, but it's don't feel like you have to put yourself into a box that someone else created. You get to pick and choose the tips and the tricks and the insights and the things that work for you. And again, as long as you're doing that ethically and you wouldn't mind telling your grandma about it, you're good.
Oh, such amazing advice. I love that. I love that. Honestly, to wrap up here, I just want to say thank you. This was so juicy. I don't know if you guys saw the comment. Someone actually wrote that we would love to see this panel together again. So it's really just talking about the value that we brought today and just really being our true authentic self. My final advice is I always say, like, soul searching before job searching. Own your greatness with confidence to shine. Right? Really believe that you have what it takes and that you have amazing value to offer. Every no, it means that your next opportunity is around the corner there. So we really hope that you enjoy today's panel, and feel free to follow us as well or connect with us there and share this with others. Thank you, my fellow LinkedIn Top Voices panel here. I would love to stay in touch, and this was so great. We did it. We did it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of the week, and you take care and stay safe. Cheers.
All right.